Welcome to the Cinchuation Podcast, brought to you by Saddle Up. Saddle your horses, tighten those cinches, and join us as we dive into the heart of the Western equestrian lifestyle. Well, we're back with another episode of the Cinchuation Podcast. Thank you, ladies, for being here. We have Miss Amanda with us today. She drove all the way from Fort Morgan after she just survived a tornado experience over the weekend to be here with us today. Ooh. So thank you for being here. We're
Absolutely.
so excited.
I'm honored to come on.
Yes, you've had a whole plethora of horse experience, so I think it's going to be a really good one. Do you kind of want to start us off with your journey in the horse industry, how it kind of began, and what keeps you passionate about it?
Sure. So since I was teeny tiny, I didn't know what those things were standing out in that field, but I knew I wanted to be around them. I wanted to know what they were. And then as soon as I could talk, I would say, horses, 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 every time I saw them. And I just knew that I wanted to be around them, wanted to be a part of it. And I was fortunate when I was 9 that I got my first horse. The facility that I got her from was actually Palomino breeders and showing, whatnot. So I started out in Western pleasure, halter, showmanship, all that kind of good stuff. So that kicked off the journey. And I was fortunate that the gal that was there helped me work with my first horse. She was only 2, green broke, turned and stopped most of the time. And I was fortunate to have her for 27 years. So my Blissy girl.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So
That in of itself is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, my whole life. So that was my girl.
She's
so
the best, I know.
yeah, sent her on her way in 2020. So
I don't even know how long we've known each other now at this point, but it was a really funny story, like just how it all, I won't go into huge details because it was a muddy situation how we first met. It was a horse sale deal, and you were like the, what do you want to...
mediator?
Yeah, the mediator.
Maybe? Yeah, trying
and it was just a really
guide them
deal.
to a safe situation.
And
that they didn't want anything to do.
Yeah, they didn't want the safe situation, and so put us all in a really bad spot. But anyway, so her and I had spoke during that, and then when I worked at the sale barn, I went to work one day, and I was like, I saw this girl, and I was like, man, she looks familiar. And she's looking at me. She's like, man, you look familiar. Yeah. And you're like, are you Lindsay?
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah. And so then we're like, we figured out how we knew each other.
Yeah, the connection.
And then we just kind of hit it off. Like, we joke that we're like soul sisters.
Yeah.
We have like
our birthdays are so close together.
And hers is the day before mine. And
and we just fell in love.
Yes, after
pushing
all that.
Dangerous cows and bulls through a sale together.
Horsey people, that's how we started our journey together.
So I'm assuming that your family was not into horses.
I am
you just
the
had
only
that
cowboy. I think I was a cowboy in another life. I was born in love with horses. As I tell people, I have horses in my heart. Yeah. And you meet other people and you see it, young girls, they have horses in their heart. That's how I always explain the real lovers of horses who will never have them out of their life.
I
have horses in my heart.
Either people have it in them, you can't put them in it, and you can't take it out.
No, it's just this connection that you form with these beautiful animals, and you just never want to let it go.
And we get a lot of customers that have usually daughters. I mean,
commonly. I have met a few young boys and young men that seem to have it too, and they have that like bright light in their eyes about horses, and you can see that they've got it too.
The family's like, we have no idea, but she has to be around horses. So
I was born a cowboy. That's how I always say it. I was born a cowboy.
Awesome.
Yeah. The Lone Ranger in my family. But here I am. And I'm grateful my parents nourished it too. I was really fortunate.
Lucky, yes.
I hear some parents say, oh God, they want to get into horses. It's so expensive. I'm like, do yourself a favor and sign her up, get her involved, get her in lessons. That is the best journey you could set her on to be a strong, independent woman, I really do. I encourage it. So I try to steer them back into it, even though they're apprehensive.
It is scary. Like, we know it's expensive, but I feel like that was the best thing. I grew up in not a great neighborhood, and I feel like horses, like, I didn't want to get in trouble because, get my horses taken away. So I think that's the best thing, seriously. Yeah. It keeps everybody.
Yeah, and I was fortunate too with Bliss. When I had her, I boarded her at a place I could actually walk to, and I could just go through this path, neighborhood path, and go over there, clean stalls, and say I was going to be there for an hour and come back 4 or 5 hours later, as we all know, barn time. But yeah, I was really fortunate to start out that way. So
absolutely. And then Bliss, had Presley for you. So you
yes.
still have Miss Presley.
I have Presley,
Yes.
my never had a job in her life, hay burner,
burner.
but she makes my world go round. So,
Yeah, she's cool.
and it's a part of bliss that I still have. So that
Yes.
means everything. So,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
My one-eyed goofball.
Yeah, she's a funny horse too. I love her. Yeah,
She's like one of the funniest, strangest
creatures
horses you'll ever meet. Yeah.
She's awesome. And I know you've done a little bit of everything, but I think more current, like you've really focused on like the ranching and the ag kind of community. Is that?
Yeah, I've definitely gotten involved with some of the ag component. I've of course played around and helped push some cattle here and there, and we worked at the sale together, of course. And but yeah, it's kind of funny. I moved out to Fort Morgan, and I had gone to school and got my associate veterinary technology. And so I knew I still really enjoyed that, but large animal. So I actually drove around the neighborhood with resumes.
Yeah.
And introduced myself to people and said, hey, are you looking for any extra help? And I thought, why not? You see it in movies, it's got to work. And I was successful. I stopped at the rancher's house, and it's kind of funny. I was actually going to look at an equine facility. They had really nice horses. You could tell just by looking at them. They had some nice bloodlines, and so I thought maybe they could use someone to help exercise or something along the lines. And
Yeah.
a gentleman had told me to go to this White House, and so I stopped at the White House. It was actually the wrong one, but the right one for my journey, because
Yeah.
he had a lot head of cattle, and needed somebody intermittently to help work his cows through the chute for AI, and help with calving and pasture stuff, fences, all the good stuff. And so I left a card with him and my resume, and I heard from him a couple months later, and I've worked for him intermittently through different seasons the whole time I've been out in Fort Morgan.
Wow.
So for about 8 years now. And he's become a dear friend of mine as well. So,
Aww.
yeah, so that's been really neat, seeing a different side of it. As a tech, a lot of times just working through the chute and, bull testing and, vaccines and some other components, but not so much the feed and the husbandry component of raising cattle, calving side, of course.
Yeah.
I got to see it out pasture,
Aww.
the pasture style, so yeah, it was really neat just checking all that and the breeding component of it as well. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is cool. Aside from like very similar, like at the sale barn and just randomly going out to like friend's place and working with cows, I've not been involved in that either. And I think it would be such a cool experience.
Yeah, well, even in school, I had to search out a lot of the large animal component. It was predominantly a small animal teaching school. So I actually went out to different cattle breeding facilities and was fortunate to do some embryo work and AI and flushing and whatnot. And so that definitely piqued my interest. So it was neat to be able to continue some of that, so many years later, and still get my hand in those beautiful little baby calves.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
baby
Their
calves.
little long eyelashes and things. My favorite.
They're so cute. I know,
Mhm.
the babies.
Awesome.
The babies. Trying to remember. I know you did Western Pleasure. Did you write English or no?
Well, I worked actually, I got brought on a therapeutic riding facility, and they offered English lessons.
That's
So
right.
while I had been around English here and there, and I had a friend that, we used to go play around and tack up these English horses and go through a jumping course, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no formal training in the English field at all, and I was all Western, and so I made myself learn. And I borrowed an English saddle. I had a Western pad under an English saddle on Bliss, my paint. So it was like as funny as it could look. And I just practiced, my posting. I practiced just how it felt, so that
Yeah.
as I took on, the young English students, it's just that beginner, beginner lessons with it. I could still know, having ridden in an English saddle. So I made myself learn, and it was funny. It was very different. I have a lot of respect for it. I felt like I was missing some of that before, and so I gained a lot of respect for English writers and the different disciplines. And so that was a limited amount. It's
Yeah.
not my preference, but I have a lot of respect for it, and I did
Absolutely.
teach some of the beginner lessons. Where I started out at that therapeutic riding facility. I was more geared towards traditional Western riding. But geared towards special needs kiddos. So it was an adaptive form of lessons, really. It was
Okay.
at their pace. Sometimes they didn't even ride. It was just getting through some grooming and being around the horses and, bringing them just back to a comfortable space, so.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, she works with a lot of the therapeutic riding centers too, and it's
Oh, yeah.
amazing what that does,
Yeah.
Just even being around them, just
Sure.
brushing them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what's the big one? It's Iron Horse, right?
Iron Horse, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
one I work with.
Yeah. It's a small community, so usually once you kind of been in it, you get to know a lot of them. But yeah, that was really where I would say I got like a little glimpse of some of the, we had a few English boarders and I managed the facilities as well, so I became familiar with some of the other aspects of it. But yeah, minimal English writing for me.
Yes. No, me too. Me too. But we've been talking to a lot of people that come on the podcast, and it surprises me how many actually either started English
And
or
change.
Yeah, or
I know
they just had to
tons of
dabble
people
in it,
who started with English and are now doing burro racing, or they've gotten into some like cattle work, working cow horse, or even some reining aspects. And I always find it interesting when people have such a crossover between the disciplines.
Absolutely.
But no, I do. I gained some respect for English writers there for sure. I was like, oh, okay. Can't wear shorts in this saddle either. Bad idea.
That would not be good. No. One day I'll have to give it a try, maybe. I've never.
You know what? It really challenges your writing ability. It's funny what you don't realize that you count on in a Western saddle.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I could ride bareback all day long, there's just some different aspects to it that, it was fun, though.
Yeah.
Gave me some chuckles.
There's my bucket list thing.
To
One
write.
time. Yeah, right.
One time.
Just one time, yeah. Just sit on
Jumping's
it,
fun. I like when I've played
Yeah.
around doing jumping. I feel like it's like the closest you get to flying.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
on a horse. It's pretty cool. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And I know, like, talking about barrel racing, you used to do some gymkhanas and barrel racing. What kind of drew you to that discipline?
Sure. So the ranch I spent the majority of my younger days at, we actually did trail riding, and the ranch actually hosted a gymkhana. And so a lot of my friends, were riding in it, and we all love to go fast on a horse. I don't know who doesn't like to go fast on a horse, but to be able to do it in a controlled manner, and then you're competing against your friends and everything. And it was very family oriented. So that's actually what started my like speed on horses journey. And I just started playing around with Bliss, and running her through. I had some friends that let me play on their really nice finished barrel horses as well. And I feel like once you ride one nice finished barrel horse, it just sparks this thing in you that you're like, I want my horse to be at this caliber.
Absolutely.
I want to, and the competition factor of it, obviously, I love to compete. So I enjoyed that as well. And it's just, it was fun, the camaraderie between all the folks. We had a lot of people that boarded at different surrounding facilities and little home, backyard operations and whatnot. And they would ride in. And so it widened your horse community and your friends, even more so than those that you boarded with directly at the place. So
Gotcha.
I enjoyed so many different aspects of it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Winning, obviously, is one of the funnest aspects, but but yeah, no, it was a good time. I mean, I really enjoyed it. So that definitely sparked it. And then I ended up at another place that he actually trained with this barrel trainer, and he actually needed somebody to ride his barrel horses through. Darn it, I was the person. It's like, yeah, I'll come do that.
Sign me up.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because I was just looking for a big change, and
Yeah.
I'd been down visiting a friend, and had gone through some things recently, and just kind of needed just a little getaway. And so I went down, and we went over and visited his place. Absolutely beautiful ranch in Larkspur, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And went down there and hung out. I'd actually hauled Bliss down to my friend's place as well. She was outside my window for the first time of where we're sleeping. I could just open the window and there's my beautiful paint horse, and it's like, hi Bliss, I love you, Yeah. And so it was just one of those things that you always, I feel like, dream of, when you're young, but you didn't necessarily come from a wealthy family or a ranching family, so you were never used to seeing your horse outside the window. And I feel like that's what a lot of us dreamt, of the day that we could do that. So that was like a mini version of it for me, and gave me some, goals and things I wanted in the future. And we'd gone down to a friend's place and, saw that ranch, and gosh, it was just stunning, and in this beautiful valley, and just beautiful. And, packed up from that trip and went back, and I just still wanted change, and I wanted to get out of, the suburbs. I just knew what I wanted, and I knew it wasn't houses so close together, and maybe wanted some dirt roads and whatnot. And so I'd reached out to her and said, I know you offered about me maybe coming back or maybe moving in or something. Is there an opportunity? Do you know anybody hiring? And she's like, actually, that ranch that we went to, he's looking for somebody to move on to his property. He's got an apartment, manage all the horses. I know you've got some experience with that. And then he runs barrel horses. So he's be looking for somebody for that as well. And yes, what am I going to do?
Twist
Send
my
my
arm,
resume on. I'm on my way, And so I put together, freshened up my resume and went interviewed with him. And him and I really got along, and I really liked what he was doing. And it actually turned out he was doing some equine assisted therapy as well, which I didn't even know was a part of the equation to come on there as an employee. And so that, of course, really piqued my interest as well. And so moving out there actually brought up a ton of new opportunities for me and opened up my world to using horses, as a tool to help heal humans. And I knew that they healed me because of things I had gone through and how they made me feel better. And they were like a therapist. They didn't tell anybody, and they always made you feel better every single time you visited. So the idea that I could go and, work with other people and share with them, the equine healing component, aside from playing and trails and all this other stuff, that sparked something in me. I didn't even know it would be a lifelong career for me, really.
Yeah.
So it opened up my barrel, and I honed some of my barrel skills and training and riding in that way, and rode several of his horses through some barrel races and whatnot. I was able to bring Bliss along and, refine some of my training, since I had no idea what I was doing as a 9-year-old with a, 2-year-old Greenbrook horse. But so I was able to get her tuned up a little bit better, and some, just refined training with her. And and then that opened up that therapeutic side, which I've never left. It's always been a part of my life now. Right. So it's lucky happenstance, I didn't even know that was a part of it. So
that's insane.
So that was a pretty cool new world for me.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
It is amazing. Very rewarding too.
Yeah. And that, like, with that in that program in particular, we worked with like troubled, more like inner city, underprivileged, all girls, and so some of these gals had never even seen a horse ever. They didn't even have TVs to see a horse, and so this is their first time not only seeing them but touching them, riding them, and a lot of them were troubled. So some of them were in the system and had, gone to like jail, juvenile hall, whatever, and so they had to reach a certain clearance to even come out. And so, we use the horses as a tool to work on some of their trust issues, some of their emotional anger, how to be in the moment, how to think of something else, someone else, the horse, and that your actions mattered and affected somebody else. So that was one of the components of things that we did out there. And then we actually worked with some other organizations that were also, of a similar, I guess you would say, group of individuals. However, these weren't troubled, girls, but some of them were deaf. And so it was a program that brought the deaf and the hearing together, and then they would go experience the world together. And one of the things they would do was come out to us. So the gals that could hear, they learned sign language, and they could help communicate what we were trying to say to be around the horse and safety and, how to ride and all that, all the different, elementary aspects of being around a horse. So, and then like some young mothers and a few other different organizations. But it was pretty neat. It was something I'd just never been around involving horses, but it was absolutely amazing and very rewarding. It was pretty cool.
I know. Extremely rewarding.
It was really neat. So that really kicked off that journey and the love of using the horses as a more than a tool. A tool sounds so elementary of what they really do. But, that doesn't even sound like that describes it. It's life-changing, so.
It is, absolutely. There's days that we have hard days here and we're just done with the world, but we go out for a saddle fitting and it just takes that one horse that looks at you and it's like, oh, I feel better.
That connection.
A lot of times I'll be so stressed before going out there that I just take a minute and try to look in the eyes and pet and just get myself grounded, because I'm like, this is so not fair. My anxiety level is like way up here, and then just a few pets and a little bit of love, and I'm like, all right, we can start now.
Well, and I think that's exactly why they work so well, because there's something about just touching a horse that brings you back into the moment. It reminds you that everything's going to be okay and that you're all right. Like you're okay. And it lets you like release a breath of, I'm all right. And I feel like that's what it does for everybody, even if they've never been around one. I feel like everybody is, if they're open to it, they can have that connection and have that same release of like, oh, I'm all right.
I'm good.
I'm all right. Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. There's some that know too.
Oh.
Like they know when you need it and they're like, come on.
Yeah.
Bring it in.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So true.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell us more about your involvement with the Exceptional Rodeo Program at CSU and its impact on the community. And
sure. Yeah. I was fortunate. Actually, the executive director of not the first one I was just talking about, but I actually went on to another therapeutic riding facility down in Parker. And the executive director of that facility, we became really close and stayed in close contact. And he actually got involved. Someone reached out to him about the Exceptional Rodeo. It had already been, I think they'd already been doing the Exceptional Rodeo for 30 years or something at that point when he got involved. And she asked him if he had any interest in maybe taking over, because they'd been doing, her and her daughter actually had been hosting these exceptional rodeos all over as a PRCA exceptional rodeo. So it was tied to all of the PRCA rodeos in different areas all over the U.S. And she knew his love of the rodeo as well as the special needs component. So she reached out to him, and he one random week said, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I said, "I don't have any plans." And he said, "Do you want to come to Vegas with me?" And I said, "Yep, what are we doing?"
Let's go.
Because he knows me so well that I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of gal. I'm like, done, what are we doing, So we actually went out to the NFR, in Las Vegas, and they were actually had an exceptional rodeo going on at the time. So he wanted me to come see it and see, what it was about, if I had any interest in being involved. He was also seeing how much he wanted to be involved. And we met the previous gal that was running it and her daughter and, some other volunteers that helped. And of course I was hooked because I love rodeo. I mean, rodeo is so near and dear to my heart. And then obviously the special needs community is just everything to me. So the idea to bring those two communities together just was...
So yeah, I was going to say, for those that don't know what the Exceptional Rodeo is,
sure.
Explain it a little bit.
Okay, so the Exceptional Rodeo is an adaptive rodeo experience for kiddos with coming from all abilities. So that's any type of kiddo, maybe some of the autistic community comes, even some of the kiddos that might be blind or deaf might, come and get involved. So it's an adaptive rodeo. So we have kiddos who are wheelchair bound, all disabilities, all abilities are welcome to come into our arena. Typically it's in the rodeo arena, so it's going to be where all the cowboys are, roping, riding bulls, broncs, barrel racing, all of those types of events are held in these big arenas. So for one day, we take over the arena and we make it wheelchair accessible. And so any ability is welcome to join, their brothers, their sisters, everybody comes in. And what we call adaptive. So there's usually not any live animals. There might be some for petting. We might have mini horses come in or, some goats. And we've had a few others trickle in, but it's going to be more like a stick horse rodeo. So we've got like a fake bull, and we have people operated and we've got someone ringing the bell. And we've got an announcer and they're like, up next is so-and-so, on the bull, can they make it 8 seconds? And, and we're all cheering them on. And,
amazing.
So yeah, some of the kiddos, they actually can't even sit up on their own. So they may even get on with a back rider who supports them so they can have the experience. And yeah, and then you know, we actually pair them up with cowboys from that community. So we go to San Antonio. So we have all the PRCA cowboys will come volunteer their time, and we pair them up with one of the special needs kiddos from that community.
Oh my gosh!
And so it's bringing, you know, it's bridging the gap between the two communities. A lot of rural areas, you know, there's not as many people available to serve that community. So this helps bring awareness and helps people understand the importance of bringing those kiddos into the Western community as well. Not only helping them feel like they are included in every way, but it also opens up the doors for them to maybe be interested in being around horses and maybe some adaptive riding or, you know, who knows? I mean, you know, they may even want to compete someday, some of the kiddos. So, and it's just nice. It's good for everybody. The cowboys get a break from their crazy training schedule and, you know, all of their anxiety and all of their, you know, go. And they get to come have a break from their world as well and just be in the moment, just like the kiddos. And, you know, we have the barrel racing, bulldogging, you know, we've got a bronc that they get on and, you know, so yeah. And then we have a lot of the rodeo queens will come out and they do the trophies, you know, and they're all gorgeous and dolled up with their crowns. And, you know, they come and do the trophies. And yeah, it is, you know, and we're fortunate that we have some really great big names that will help share, you know, what we're doing as well. And that brings a little bit more attention to what we're doing and, you know, attention to the community and just helping people understand that, you know, we're all the same. We just are doing things at different paces.
And speaking of all the same, there was something in there about bronc riding and you.
Yeah. So yeah, I got on my first bronc. Oh God!
What in the world made you want to do that?
Well, it's kind of funny. So actually, way back when in high school, I was interested in some rough stock. I had a couple girlfriends that had actually been bull riding in high school, and we used to go up to this big rodeo ranch up north, and I just was like, God, that'd be amazing. Get on a bull, like. Man, that'd be fun. Like, what a rush that's got to be. And I talked my mom into it. And she of course didn't want me to, but knew, like, she just wanted to support me, you know. She was proud of who I was and what an individual I was from everybody else wanting to do all these crazy things. And so, yeah, I was signed up, had my permission slip to get on a bull, and my friend got on right before me, and I was just trying to get myself amped up for it, and her bull rocked her and destroyed her really bad, stomped her. She had to be carried out of the arena, and I went, I don't think I want to do this right now. I think I'm going to opt out on this. So I actually didn't get on because I just felt like I wasn't prepared enough for it because she'd been riding for quite a while and got really injured. And so I actually opted out, and I felt like, well, I'm not ready, you know? And so that was many years ago. And then I'd gone to a lot of ranch rodeos, and I kept watching the ranch, the saddle bronc, you know? And I just thought, God, that would be so fun. You know, they put their regular riding working saddle on these horses, and it's just like when we're breaking colts. And I thought, well, I've been on some rank little green, you know, and I've ridden out a bunch. And I thought, God, that would be fun. You know, that would be fun. And I went back and forth. And then I saw this gal who was putting on all these, you know, all women's ranch bronc schools. And I'd been following her for a bit. And I thought, man, that sounds like that's my chance to do it, you know. But I'd been down for a major surgery. I'd had a lot of really serious physical things going on, and I wasn't actually able to even just ride horses regularly. Trotting was killing my body, and so I really wasn't even sure I was going to be able to like continue riding horses, which is, you know, killing me. And I had a major surgery, and that like changed everything around. And it's so crazy. I'd ridden one horse. This will make me feel emotional, but I'd ridden one horse, and that brought me back around to riding horses, and I thought, God, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be able to ride horses again. And then the school popped up, and I thought, well, I'm going to at least go audit it. I can see what it's like and see if I really want to do this. Like, is this even a good idea? And so I signed up to audit this class, the school. And last minute, 2 days before I was supposed to head out, someone dropped out and there was a spot, an open spot.
Oh, no.
And I thought, man, I know if I get out there, I'm going to be dying to get on. I know it's going to kill me not to get on. And I thought, man, this is expensive. I didn't even pay nowhere near what I'd need to pay to get on for the school. I didn't have a saddle. I was so ill prepared. And I'm like, nope, just do it. Just do it. You're going to regret not doing it. Just do it. And I'd only ridden one horse since my major surgery. And it had been about 6 months before that. So I hadn't been riding regularly.
Oh my gosh.
But I just was like, just do it.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, you've got that one spot. Is it still available? And she said, yeah, it's available. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah, sign me up. And so she's like, do you have a saddle? And I'm like, nope, I've got my roping saddle. And she's like, we'll make it work. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, do you have a rope? And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I've got a rope. I'm not a roper, but I've got one I screw around with, on a dummy. And she's like, bring it, and she just showed me a couple different things I needed and, told me a couple things that I should bring with me. And my good attitude and my bravery, and I was on the road to go get on some broncs at this all women's bronc school, and drove by myself, packed up a wall tent, and a sleeping bag and a heater. It's pretty cold still yet. And so, I went out. I reached out to the person that was hosting and asked if I could pitch up my wall tent, and they said, yeah, it's beautiful. Pick a spot, wherever you want. And so I was the only one that stayed on the property and put my wall tent up.
Oh my gosh, you were born cowgirl
She
through.
She
Oh my
is, yeah.
gosh.
It was the most amazing, wild, scary, exhilarating
awesome
experience
is that?
ever. Like we've all watched rodeos our whole lives, right? And you see them nod and you see the gate fly open and you think, oh my God, and then to be the one doing it was, for a second I was like, what am I doing here? And I had to tell myself, you signed up for this, you paid for this, do it, But man, I had to like psych myself up for it and just think, no one else died in front of you, you should live. You might be banged up or broken a little, but just go,
But you're doing it, yeah.
Yeah, and so, oh man, it was wild. So we spent a bunch of time in safety, and she was really, really amazing, taught us every aspect. She had a lot of other gals that actually rode broncs helping, come around, check our saddles for safety, make sure our leather was good quality, helped us, tape what we had to tape, just helped us get everything changed out. Checked over our boots and, got us fixed up with our baby powder. There's all these aspects that you just don't know anything about, and, and we're all watching these horses, and they're ranch broncs. So none of them have been ridden through rodeos or anything regularly. They've not been haltered regularly. They're not bucking stock. Like they're just these young horses who are not saddle broke, who you're just getting on and you're just hoping for the best. And it's wild because we've also been programmed our whole lives not to let them break in half.
Right.
You're not getting on them for them to give you a wild ride and dump you in the dirt. You're hoping you could go have a nice ride.
Right.
And you're getting on intentionally this time. They're gonna bronc, they're gonna buck, they're gonna, they're gonna break in two. And it's like, okay, this is literally the opposite of every single time I've ever intentionally gotten on a horse,
Yeah.
And it was crazy. That chute feels so small while you're on, you get on, you have to tack up your own horse. You have to halter your own horse, and they don't even want you to touch them. So you're haltering your horse going, what am I doing? Yeah. I can't even get a halter on this horse and I'm going to get on it and they're going to just let it go in the arena and there's nothing stopping it. That's it. You're going, So you get out, you're getting your horse haltered and they're losing it. They're ready to flip over. You can barely get the halter on. You're trying not to drop your bronc rein, and that's the other thing. I have tiny hands. These bronc reins are huge.
Thick, yeah.
So I feel like a little kid with my baby hands trying to how am I supposed to, and they have the crazy way that it wraps through for the best grip. And I'm like, do you have a smaller, a littler one? For a kid size bronc rein, no such thing exists. So yeah, I did my best. I found what I thought was the easiest one for me to hold on to. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, and so I get, everybody was really kind and lent us, gear and vest, all that kind of stuff. It was wild. So yeah, I get my bronc halter on. I'm getting him, saddled up. You cannot obviously cinch him up like you would any horse. You have to use this long metal rod. It's got a curve in the end, and you're reaching through the chute, trying not to get your, wrist broke or your arm broke while they're losing their minds because you put a saddle on them, and you're trying to get under there, and you're hoping that these strangers you just met know what they're doing enough to help you tighten up all your,
all your gear,
all your gear right, to have it in the right spot.
Strangers,
and you're like, well, I hope that they respect what we're doing, and of course, thank God they were all versed,
Right.
But I don't know them, so I'm like, I hope you like me enough to do this right, but and you reach in and you're, just getting, and then again, you're second guessing it like the whole time, and then you're just like, think about everything. Sit on your pockets. We had some raunchy things we were saying, which I won't say now, but, had those, tell myself, don't forget this part, and, where you want your, how you want to position yourself. And, there's a way that you measure your bronc rein that's hopefully ideal for the length of your arm and where their head's going to go down. And, because you want to use that to help, pull you closer while they're breaking in two, and it's like, all the things you've never done, you're going to go do it in the most extreme way. It was just crazy, and you do this thing where you use some of their mane and you tie it onto the bronc rein so you have your marker, So I actually have my little piece of mane that's like, that bronc that didn't kill you. I got a piece of you. Thank you. Appreciate you, But we practiced on a saddle broke horse first, just coming out of the chute so we could see what it felt like. We had the pickup men, take the lead rope and just pull us as fast as they could just to get the idea of what it felt like, and then how to, dismount onto, your pickup guy. And that's one of the things, this sounds so funny, but I've always pictured how fun it would be on this rough stock and then being able to jump off on the pickup guy and, it'd be so fun, and needless to say, I didn't ride long enough to even get picked up, but that's okay, it's all right. But I got to practice and got on that first one, and you're looking at all of them coming through thinking you want to pick your horse, right? Because that's what we've always done is, horseback, riders and enthusiasts, you pick your horse, you're like, oh, this horse I like the size, and it seems like it's got a good disposition and all this, and you're like trying to pick the horse that you think maybe won't kill you the worst, or how do you even, what kind of meter do you have if you've never done it, big, maybe might not buck as hard, or is it going to buck harder and it's farther to fall to the ground, like that one's eating, maybe it's not going to,
maybe it's a little more mellow,
maybe it's a little more calm and peaceful, but it was funny, and it's like, your heart's racing, you can't hear anything, you're just trying to remind yourself all those safety tips, and got on that first one, and oh my God, my heart was pounding, and I almost couldn't see, I was just like, this is happening, and I'm like, just make sure you really, really feel like everything's right, and just when you feel like you got it, just go. And so I just tucked myself way down, pulled my hat down, and just, I was like, just go, And one of the things that's different that a lot of people I don't think know too about ranch bronc is you've got your rope. Your rope is on your saddle as if you were out, ranching.
Yeah.
So you actually have your bronc rein, and then you also have a grip under your rope. And so to me, that's also what interested me, because I thought, well, that's, when you're working a green horse, a lot of times most of the time you're two reining while you're getting them, into place and getting them used to all their training. A lot of times they're not ready for neck reining. So to me, it felt like the most body position, like the closest to body positioning I'd been on horses that had broken too, on these green horses. So I thought that meant nothing. I'll tell you right now, it meant nothing. It was not the same at all. Not at all. But you got your bronc rein, you've got your rope, and you're just like,
hunker down,
hoping that you've got it, and of course you don't. You don't at all. It doesn't matter. They open it up, and man, them horses take this leap out, and it just jars you off your middle. And really, I felt like for the most part, you just don't stand a chance your first few. It's because you're just not prepared for it. You don't know how it's gonna feel. You don't know, and so I mean, maybe a couple little launches and bucks and whoop, off, off I went. And it was funny. It was like little yard sales here and there, hat goes one way, my spur goes another, and it was really funny because that first one, got through it. Like I said, it was, I was on for seconds, not 8, not 8. And, a couple jumps and, I was off my middle and off on the ground. And I just, went for a hard tumble. I mean, I hit so hard.
Oh.
And then I laid in the arena and the sky was so blue and the clouds were just gorgeous. And I was like,
I'm alive.
I did it, and I was like laying there in this like moment. And then all of a sudden I come back into reality and they're like, get up. And I'm like, oh yeah. Like, I could be in danger still. So I jump up and I just see my gal, my trainer, my teacher, and I go just running towards her. She just was big hug. She's so proud of me. Got my hat from the Cowboys, and I was like, all right, I did it once. Now I got to do it again. Let's see if I can, because that sucked. That ride sucked. I could do better than that. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to do better on my next one. So we all got through our horses that first day, and then the next day, you have time to think about it. All your bruises and all your everything. Yeah. You're sore. You feel like you've been in a car wreck, and you're like, oh. Well, I'm here to do this. I guess I'm doing it again.
Oh my gosh.
So then you have all that time in between to say, yeah, I'm not done. I want a better ride than that last one. And it was funny because in that moment I was like, this is why those Cowboys do it. This is why there's roughies. Yeah. This is why they go and go and go. And this is why they're all banged up with broken bones and they're getting on again, because you just have this thing about you that you're just like, I could do better than that ride. I know I could, because I am a versed equestrian. So the idea that it came off so fast, I'm like,
you're like, I'm offended.
Lame. You're better than this, Amanda. You're better than this, And so, I got on that next one. And it was kind of cool because she said, did you watch anybody ride a horse that you felt like fit how you would ride and, maybe your body style or whatever. And so I actually had this little bay horse that I was like, I felt like I could maybe ride that horse a little bit nicer than the horse I rode. And it was kind of cool because the teacher said the same thing. She's like, okay, don't tell me who you have in mind, but I'm going to tell you who I had in mind. And we actually had the same horse in mind.
Oh, wow.
And so, so then I had that next horse. And so, I had time to think this time. I wasn't in flight mode.
Right. When you knew
what am I doing?
Expect,
because I was like, okay, this is what it is. So that second one that I got on, and it was neat because it's like, all of us who chose to ride again, then there was this different camaraderie between us, because we were like, we're here again together. And there was the majority of us had never been on a broncs before. And then there was maybe 2 or 3 that had done it before. This one little chick was a baddie. Like she was, like we were all just like star worshiping, but she was the sweetest, kindest little gal, super handy, comes from like a rough stock family. But she was amazing. She got on again and again and again and again. And so she was really cool, and she was really kind and, forthcoming with, help and suggestions and everything. And so it was pretty cool, like us all cheering each other on because we all knew we'd all just been through it and we're all going to do it again.
Right.
And not everyone did it some people only rode once and were like, yeah, I'm good. This isn't for me. And like, I'm real good. I'm real good. And I actually, one of my good friends, it's funny, she reminded me of you. I don't know if I told you.
I wouldn't be out there.
She was a barrel racer, but her whole energy and vibe. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
She reminded me of you so much, and her and I became really close for it. Aww. And she was one of the ones that didn't want to get on again, and I felt bad because I felt like she was almost ashamed of not getting on again. And I said, dude, this is what we're doing is crazy.
It's your journey.
Yeah, no. Yeah. She said, well, I have a barrel race coming up. I'm like, then don't chance it. Don't chance it. Girl, go save your body. No, don't injure yourself for it. I'm like, I'm in my healing mode. I don't got anything I got to worry about. Like, I'm like, so I was like, you're good, and so that I feel like I hope I helped her feel better. And, we've kept in touch since, but and a couple other people were just like, I'm good, or some people, there was a couple good injuries too. And I mean, I had a couple injuries too, but so then we get on the next, that next one the next day, and I had the wherewithal. I was like, I want some music. I want to get in the zone,
some AC/DC, like this.
Pantera, dude. I was like, I want Pantera, man. Put some Pantera on. And a couple people didn't even know who Pantera was. I'm like, are you even a bad ace if you don't know who Pantera is? Come on, But so I had Pantera playing while I was, getting that next bronc going, and that like got me in the zone. My older brother, he was a recon Marine, and Pantera was one of his favorites. And so I felt like I was channeling his like crazy side and his like,
like,
you know, that bravery and everything that he always had. And so, yeah, I was jamming in Pantera, getting my horse freaking cinched up and haltered, and I was like, all right, now I can think this through, you know?
Yeah.
So then I could really think about how it was supposed to feel. And I'd say I rode like, you know, at least a couple more jumps out. I still didn't make it, which I wouldn't expect to, but, you know, still didn't make it to be picked up or, you know, to my 8 or whatever. And that was totally fine. I didn't, you're hopeful. It's not like you've never been on. I'm like, come on, you know. But yeah, so that second one, I actually could think through. I could actually think to try to pull myself back down. I could think to try to pull myself back. I mean, I still was on for, you know, a few seconds, but I could think it through more. And I thought to get up quick and run. Instead of laying there enjoying the moment of what that amazing rush was, you know, that rush of near death, you know, that rush of your body, that excitement. So yeah, I was able to think it through a little bit more. But yeah, I actually cracked a rib on the first one, and the second one made it a lot worse. I broke a bone in my foot too, so I was having some things that was hurting a little bit. I really wanted to get on a third, and I could barely crawl up the panels, and I just said, you know, your lungs are kind of close, like the rib that it turns out I cracked one of my ribs. Is a little close, and breathing was really hurting, and I'm like, I think this is the point where you gotta be smart enough to know not to get on with the injury versus like the first time, the first one I did it after the first one, and I could feel it, and it was pretty brutal, but after I got on that second one, I just knew I shouldn't, which was kind of sucked because I'm like, but there's all these broncs, like, but I have a chance, you know. It's like, so it was hard to do the right smart thing, but I did the right smart thing. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I guess maturity is what they call it, but it still is kind of. Yeah, so yeah, it was the most wild, amazing. I still want to get on some more. I still probably will. Still really close with the gal that is running the schools and stuff. So I still want to. I'd at least like to cover one. Yeah. I don't care about competing. I don't care about winning a buckle or, you know, money or input, nothing like that. I would like to cover one bronc. I would really still like to do that. Right now I've got so much other stuff going on that it's just, I don't have time to put into it. Yeah. You know, so I'm hopeful that I could still at least do that once, and at least cover a bronc. I think that would be like amazing just to know, like, you know, like, but yeah, I'm still, either way, even if I don't even get on another one, I just knowing that I did it, it absolutely changed my life. And anytime I'm like nervous about something, I'm like, you got on a bronc, you're fine.
You're fine.
You could do this interview, you're fine.
You could wrangle this tornado, you are fine. Yeah. You rode a tornado, basically. When she told me she did that, we went to lunch, and I was like, that is the most you thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, it doesn't even surprise me. Yeah. I would go, and I'd be cheering you on, but we are so polar opposite in that. I'm like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah, you're like, I'm good. Yeah, I love that rush. I love that rush of your body where you're like, woo! Could have died. That was fun, you know?
Now I'm looking at the sky. It's so pretty.
Yeah, I just lay there like, yeah! Oh, beautiful day.
I love that. Would you say that's been your most like memorable rodeo experience, or is there something else that kind of has stuck with you?
I mean, that's definitely up there. You know, so not necessarily like me partaking in the rodeo. Yeah. One of my really like amazing rodeo experiences actually was at the NFR last year. I was in the stands for it, so all of us that were involved with the Exceptional Rodeo, you know, hauling out to the NFR, we were there on a casual day, so we almost always go to at least a rodeo or two, and we're in the stands. It's, you know, me and my mom. My mom has been a volunteer with the Exceptional Rodeo from the very jump since I first was in it. Yeah, so around 2017 is when I first, you know, was involved, an events manager, and I haul all the equipment out to each one that we go to. So she's my road trip buddy. And so she volunteers, takes time off, and, you know, her and I go together, and we always get in other shenanigans, you know, around it. But so she comes, you know, she goes to rodeo, and then there's a few of us other folks, you know, and we watch rodeo, right? So, you know, in between, you have the like Megatron or whatever, and it does advertisements and all this other stuff. Well, it turned out that the Exceptional Rodeo, they did their whole like coverage of it while we were there, and my mom was on it. Because she hands out all of the accoutrement for it. So the hats, they all get cowboy hats, they get T-shirts and all this stuff, and so it was actually my mom handing out trophies. on the during
Oh
a
my
full
God.
NFR rodeo
Oh my
performance.
God.
Vegas NFR. Like, we all know, like, that's such a
That's
cool, that's one of the
huge,
coolest rodeos to be at.
Yeah.
I've always loved going to watch and to see our event. I cried. My Adam, his name's Adam Dario. He's the one running all the Exceptional Rodeo stuff, and he's like, "Are you crying?" I'm like, "No, you're crying. Shut up." I was like, "Oh my God,
Especially
it was
your mom.
my mom, and
that's
she's
so
right next to
special.
me, and I'm like, "Mom, look, Mom, that's you." Like, it was just, yeah. So that was probably. I think, I've had lots of really cool rodeo experiences, but
huge.
to be in the stands as a spectator, which I've always loved being, and have our amazing event up there was just like, it was just it was one of the neatest moments for sure. And my beautiful mother, like,
Yes.
and she's the one up there with the trophies handing the kids a jet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that was
love
probably honestly, that was probably one of the coolest rodeo moments I've it's up there.
I know. I keep getting looking
Yeah.
at it, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
again.
Walking on the NFR rodeo arena, though, being the
my
first one
God.
after fresh drug dirt was pretty cool too. Not everybody gets that, but if you know
Oh, no. I'd just go lay
freshly
in it.
drug arena,
Yeah.
and then it's the NFR arena
Thomas
that
and Mack,
legends of animals, legends of rodeo have been on that dirt, and to be the first one to walk your boots onto that dirt and
your
look
boots.
up and think all these people's dreams have happened
Here.
in this arena. And what those dreams have inspired people watching, like, there's so many amazing things that have happened in that arena, and to be able to put on our event in that arena, just there's so many things tied to it. So it's funny, a few things have happened, like NFR Vegas for amazing rodeo events and stuff
Yeah.
for me. So
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool.
so a couple. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, I probably have a whole bunch.
How you like laid there.
I just
that's what I do. I just walk out and be like,
Oh, laid in the dirt.
just look at all.
Yeah,
I don't even care.
I didn't lay. I don't think I've laid in the arena. I'm gonna do it next year for you.
Do it, please. I know I've been out to Vegas, but I've never been to the rodeo. Well, okay, my
so
parents took me
good.
when I was like an infant, and I'm like, cool, nice timing.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you're like, great. I didn't see anything.
No,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've always wanted
We'll have
that would be
to
amazing.
try to time it maybe when we're out there or something so we can meet up. Yeah, because it's.
Yeah.
I feel like we've all seen some cool rodeos, but
Absolutely.
going to the NFR and just knowing what all those contestants have done to get there, the athletes, the animals, everything is just
It's huge.
and it's as big and beautiful and flashy and amazing as you hope it would be for Vegas. Like, it's really cool. So yeah, if you haven't gone, I definitely recommend it. It's a neat one. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I went years before I was even doing the Exceptional Rodeo. For one of my birthdays, I went to the NFR, and so that started the love of the NFR. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you crack me up. If there was someone who was wanting to get into rodeo or like into the Western lifestyle, what is like a piece of advice that you feel would be super beneficial for them?
Don't hesitate.
Just do it.
Just go after it. I obviously finding a mentor, I feel like, is such a good route.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you can find somebody that's enthusiastic about what they're doing, who's enthusiastic to teach.
Yeah.
That's also, I think, an important component. Someone that cares about safety, I think, is super important to find as well, because some people do things a little willy-nilly in the equine and ag industry. So, someone that's going to set you up for success as much as they're able to. But I mean, really just go after it. I mean, that's the best thing I can say. You just got to, once you get involved a little bit, it gets easier and easier and easier. So, research what it takes so that you go in prepared. But, I feel like finding a mentor is, like, I think pretty crucial.
Yeah.
Because then that opens the doors for you.
Absolutely.
So I would say that's probably the main thing I would say, but go after it and don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
Life isn't, tomorrow's not promised. That's also the thing. It's just not. So if you think you want to do something, do it.
Yeah.
You don't know unless you try, and guess what? If you don't like it, then do something else.
Yeah, but at least you did it.
At least you tried it, and you could say, "Oh, actually, that wasn't for me,"
Yeah.
or "I absolutely love this. Thank God I did it." You know.
Yeah.
So
No, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah. Just go after it. That's a good one to take away, especially for all the kids and stuff,
Yeah.
Or even just
in
anybody in their
any
life.
avenue
Yeah.
you want to do it, you want to write a book, go after it.
Yeah.
My best friend just wrote a book
That's
and
amazing.
published it, and like talk about inspiration.
Yeah.
Go after it. Just do it.
Absolutely. Just do it. You want to get on a ranch bronc.
You want to get on a ranch
Drive
bronc?
to Lincoln,
Contact
Nebraska,
Brittany
and you do
Miller and go to her school and go
do
get
it.
on a bronc. And then do it a second time.
Kind of switching gears, like we've talked a little bit that you like you have been a vet tech and you've done that for many years. You're doing that currently. What kind of inspired you to go into that line of work? And like, what have you learned from that experience?
Sure. So I actually went to school to get my associates, I think as some would consider late in life. I was 30 when I went, and I was actually working at the therapeutic riding facility.
Oh, wow.
So I've always, some people appreciate it, some people don't, but I've always appreciated good wounds on an animal because I get to heal it and make it look like it never happened, you know? And I
Yes,
love the idea of
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
You know, it started back at the first, trail riding, place that I was at. I had a horse, Lily, buckskin paint. You never forget some of those like pivotal moments. And she had a massive wound on her chest.
Oh, wow.
And I had to massage all of the pus out of her wound after the vet came.
Oh,
it was like one of my
no.
daily things, and rinsing it out and washing it and all this, right?
Ew.
But it was like one of those things, and I was like, oh, this is
It's
crazy,
kinda cool,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I remember that being one of those pivotal wounds that I, took care of. She'd run into a T-post and gotten loose, whatever, out on the trail. And so that was one. And then years later, I was at the therapeutic riding facility, and I had another horse, this older retired therapy horse. I had him out on pasture, and I was managing all the horses and everything at the time there. And so that included, basic, first aid, vet care and stuff. And he had a huge wound on his wither, like on his shoulder. And it had just gone. I was there Friday, and I was called on Sunday about it, and it was bad. I mean, I could put my hand. It was a pocket. I could put my hand.
God.
We had a huge pasture. I think he must have run into like a low broken branch or something. But I mean, it was a massive wound. Yeah. But I was so versed with wounds at this time because I'd done a million in between. And so I doctored it myself, and I had a good relationship with the vet. So I was able to just do like a phone consultation, basically, just to make sure I was on the right path with how they would like me to heal it. And I was, and they fully supported everything I was doing. So it was perfect. Had them on antibiotics and, good cleaning schedule, whatever. And I mean, it was nasty, maggots. And then because of the way the wound was, the opening was on the top and the pocket was on the bottom. So again, I was having a massage to keep cleaning it, lavage, flush, all that kind of stuff. And so I doctored that wound, and, I really like the aspect of understanding what to use, why you're using it, and how is it working, even on like, I don't know if I'd say a molecular level, but you know what I mean? Like, why is this what we're choosing? Why is this the antibiotic we're choosing? Why is this the topical we're choosing? Why is this the flush we're using, So I always found that super interesting. I liked to research everything that I was using and why, and all the information, just to make sure too I was using the right thing. And that really sparked me wanting to go to school, to be a vet tech. I originally, when I was really young, wanted to be a veterinarian. My whole younger life, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and then we euthanized a gelding, and I was there, and that was my first time watching an animal be put down. And I thought, I don't want to be the one to do that to owners. I don't want to be the person that did that. And then over time, I grew to really understand how important it is to be the person that's involved in that aspect of the animal's life and the owner's life, because you can be an advocate for both the owner and the animal in that capacity if you're on the veterinary side. So although I was already 30 and I didn't really want to go to school to be a veterinarian, because I felt like, as long as it would take me to go to school and everything, it just wasn't realistic at that time. I thought the next best thing that I could do was a vet tech, and so that's actually, his wound is actually what sparked me looking into going to school.
Going to vet school,
And so I looked online at different schools and, reviews and like, what are they teaching, and, the graduation percentages and, just everything. I wanted to make sure I picked the right school for myself. And so I found a school I wanted to go to, get my associate. And so that's what I did. I actually left one of the jobs I've loved the absolute most of my whole life, to go to school. And of course, everybody supported me. They understood it's important, and education can be so important in life. And, and so I felt like it was something I would always use too, even if I didn't stay on as a tech.
Right.
And so, that started my, proper tech journey, my proper veterinary journey, and, worked at vet clinics while I was in school, and, was fortunate to actually tech Presley, Bliss's daughter's enucleation, her eye removal. I actually teched her surgery, ran her anesthesia as an interview for a vet for my first job out of school. So yeah.
Holy cow.
So that was how
A high pressure interview.
that's how I got my first job. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Sign me up. Presley, I'll see you on the other side, girlfriend, So yeah, so we actually took her eye out and, dissected how it happened and what went on with her eye. And, that started my first, vet tech job. And so that was with her with a mixed practice, near where I was, grew up and, raised and working on all my friends' animals and all sorts of, she did mix. So we saw everything, cattle, horses to small animal and a few things in between. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed that and did that a lot. And then I've just gone into all different things. I had an internship at a really phenomenal vet practice up in Greeley. And so I was fortunate that I had built a good relationship with them, that even after I was done with school, they didn't have an opening. So I just volunteered, 1 or 2 days a week whenever I could. And I would go ride with them and go help and just keep my hand in it. And yeah, I just tried to keep my hand in it as much as I could. And, now I'm working at a veterinary practice that's close to me, and I'm actually not practicing as a tech there.
Oh, okay.
I intermittently will help or assist, but I'm actually in the front end. So that was my first job after my major surgery.
Right.
So I really couldn't do anything physical. And you guys know anything with animals is pretty physical, especially large animal. And it's a mixed practice as well, so we do large and small. But I knew it was unrealistic for my body to, be a tech at the time. And I also wanted to reserve my physicalities for my own horses and my own animals at home, because I've got my own little farm situation. So chickens are heavy. But yeah, so I'm on the front, and I've actually stayed on the front end, and I really love it. I'm super happy there. Initially I wasn't sure, you never know, you think you're going to go do other things and all this, but I'm actually really, really happy where I'm at.
That's
awesome. My schedule allows me to, nourish my other loves and some of my other little side hobbies and ventures. And so I'm able to I do leather work. I'm really digging into my photography side.
Yeah, your photography.
So this job has allowed me to not only advocate for still animals and humans, but it's also letting me grow and nourish my other creative side and, help make other incomes, off of my other ventures. So it's been just such an ideal job. So it's interesting, the tech, side of things has just opened up all these other different doors that you wouldn't even necessarily tie to veterinary care or practices. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. She's a jack of all
Oh
trades.
my
man.
gosh, you
She's
go
amazing.
after what you want,
she
and
does.
I like
awesome.
I'm never bored.
Never.
I don't do bored, so I just jam
do
it
it,
full
yeah.
of a million things.
I don't do it. She says it's not an option.
I don't do it bored. I can't. I hardly rest and relax. I don't sleep in.
Yeah. She we were gonna do the stupid wind is blowing so bad at my house, but she was gonna come out. She was gonna be at my house at 5:30 this morning and do pictures of me and the horses, and I was like, AM? And she's like, yeah, girl, I'll
I'm
be
like
there.
sunset
Yeah.
or
my God.
sunset or sunrise are the best, but let's do a sunrise since we're gonna do that interview. And she was like, you sure you want to get here this early? I'm like, the best light. It's the best light. It's the best light for photography, especially with your horses. It's gonna be so beautiful.
I was so excited, and then I was looking at the weather, and it's seriously, it's probably 40-mile-an-hour winds at my house right now. So bad.
Which can make for beautiful pictures, and it can make for chaotic.
Everything else.
Reschedule the photo shoot pictures. And it sounded like that's where we were going to be. So, that's all right. Another beautiful sunny day will come and we'll get those taken care of. Yeah.
At 5 in the
You
morning.
and your 5 in the morning. Yeah. Actually, might be bumped out a little bit at that time, but
That's fine. That's good with me.
You're going to be okay. You can get a nap later.
I'm very much a sleep-in kind of gal, man. I'm this morning when I texted you, I went right back to bed. It was 9 o'clock. I rolled out of bed. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, see, and I got up this morning just a little before 8, and I was like, wow, I slept in. That was amazing.
That's kind of how you are too, huh? You don't,
If I could sleep until 8, it'd be like I slept all day.
I haven't slept until 8. I'm usually up at 4:35, maybe 5:30 at the latest. Every day, no matter what. I'm like, okay, what are we doing today?
Let's go.
Hit the ground running.
Literally,
Yep.
Oh my god.
I'm not just a morning person, I'm an all-day person.
all day, 24 hours.
Let's go, baby.
Go. Well, I have another question. What do you think the horse industry can do better to support equine health and welfare? Like that's a biggie.
Yeah,
That's
that
a big one.
especially
It's
right
a
now, there's
huge
been a lot
one.
of huge stories on the forefront.
And yes.
So there's a lot of things that I could. I'm not obviously going to go into details about any of the stories, but we all know some of the stories have been floating around and stuff. So I'm going to go back to the component. I always say research. I feel like there could be a stronger educational component in the industry in all aspects. So I feel like there could be more education in regards to the animals. To animal welfare, I think there's a component missing sometimes in animal welfare that people, it's not that hard to find out, but they just need to do a little bit more research as far as animal welfare. And then of course coming from the vet component, the veterinary side, I wish people could become a little more familiar of what vets are facing and what they're dealing with. There's a lot of components of this that is not talked about, and the fatigue and emotional there's just such a heavy weight on veterinarians, and people do not understand it. They don't respect it. They think they're the only person with animals, and I wish they could take a step back and understand the pressure that these vets are under to help all these animals. And to you know, they're dealing with euthanasias every single day. They're dealing with uneducated owners every day, you know, and they're not only absorbing the animals' energy and sadness and sickness and all that, they're absorbing the owners as well. So there's so many different components to welfare all through the industry. But I wish people would care to step outside of their own box a little bit more and understand all the components. And I just wish people would be a little kinder to each other.
Absolutely.
There's so much dog eat dog. There's so much I, me, my, I'm the only one in the world. And I just wish people would take a step back and be a little bit kinder to each other. I feel like we're missing some of that, love thy neighbor factor that this industry is supposed to be raised on.
Absolutely.
You know, the Western industry is supposed to be raised with community, values, and picking each other up when they need it. And I feel like that's a big missing component right now. Recognizing that these athletes and animals are not just another number. That's another thing that I really get irritated with, because they give us everything and we owe it back to them. Absolutely. So that's the other thing that I think is, missing, is a little bit of kindness and understanding.
Viola said yesterday, she goes, do you want me to put a sign on the door that says, if you can't be kind, please don't come in our store? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's love it.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Yeah. If you can't
because
be kind.
Because it's missing.
And
it's missing.
We always have the best result for everybody in mind. And, people just think you're out to get them.
Absolutely.
And it's... Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like people are like
hard world.
There's just so much doubt in people's intentions, and I feel like if we could believe in each other a little bit more, then it starts to become a circle and cycle of positivity and kindness. And I just feel like that's just really missing right now.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would really like to see more. A little bit more education and a little bit more understanding.
A little more kindness. And and it's in every aspect, not just the horse industry or the Western industry, like the whole world right now. It's just a mess.
Everywhere you turn.
But we get affected by it in here. Day in, day out, and it's a lot. Like we struggle with the burnout, with the because with the saddle fittings, we have created. Before you go, I should show you our calendar that we have. We have created such a name for ourselves, just being honest and trying to do what's best for the horse and educate these people. Yeah. And it is literally it's a hard thing.
Well, I'm sure it's similar to the vet, because we're just there for the animals.
Absolutely.
That's all we care about.
I felt guilty relating to what you just said about the vets.
Absolutely.
I felt guilty, but it's
true.
No,
it's
because
exhausting. My
what
body
you
hurts.
do,
I'm like, and we do it. We do it to the point that, we're telling people all the time, we don't have what works for your horse, and they get very upset with us, trying to change the industry, but we have set a standard that no one else has. And, I shouldn't say no one else has, definitely not in Colorado, and, no offense meant to anyone out there, but it's demanding. And
It is.
very-
Well, and you're
it's a
absorbing all
lot.
of their chaotic energy, their lack
Their
of education.
frustration,
You're trying to, and they
yes.
come so set on something that happens at the
Yes.
vet clinic. They're so set on what they want to walk away with, be it medication, prescription, treatment, whatever. They're so set on what they came to get, which I'm sure happens here. And you absorb all the chaos of them. And I wish they understood we're here for the animals. You're saying, no, I don't have what you need because I'm not here to make, yes, do you need to make an income and money off of it? Obviously.
Yeah,
Obviously.
absolutely.
However, we care about the animals though. And that's what I just don't think they understand sometimes. It's people want a quick fix.
And I've
Yeah.
started to say, this is our standard. What you do between you and your horse is up to you. We are just educating you on what our standard is. If you want to go beyond that and push a limit on how it fits, then you go right ahead.
right.
That is not our decision.
Sure.
I'm going to show you, though, what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And the difference that it does
Does
make.
make
Like the
for your
people that
horse.
get it, it's just amazing. Like it's life changing for their relationship, for their horse and everything.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
but there's a lot that don't. And Dana and I have talked a lot, like we're so brutally honest because we care. And it's like, I think we almost catch a harder time being honest than if we would just sell a saddle, but that's not
absolutely.
what we want. That's not what we want,
Yeah. Well, that's why I like where I work because our vets stand by what they're doing and they
Yeah.
want what's best for the animals.
Right.
It's not, I have worked at vet practices where I've seen things that I don't respect. And I don't want to be somewhere where I feel like I don't respect who I work for and who I
Absolutely.
work with. And that's one of the reasons why I like working where I work.
Yeah.
Because I respect, who I'm working with. And I think that's important, that you can say no and she backs you.
Oh yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
important. In the animal industry, it's important to have people that, that we all come together on the same front, and that's what's best for the animal.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. So it's important because otherwise, you're right. It's so cutthroat. Like, just even the
Competition makes people
good Lord,
ugly.
it's terrible. It's just changed so much. So yeah, I agree with you. There's a huge aspect of that we've lost along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really sad. It's unfortunate. So, but it's all of it though.
It's all of it.
Trickle down
Yes.
effect. Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Think about that rude person last week on eBay. Is there something I'm missing? And, I just basically wrote back, we're a small business trying to survive. You don't got anything better to do than rip us apart. Why don't you go somewhere else and
We have
shop?
emergencies.
Like,
People want to get in with an emergency, and it's like, I'm sorry, we only have so many vets available. We have a full schedule. We already have 2 emergencies, 3 drop-offs. Like,
What do you want
I'm
us to
sorry.
do?
I'm going to tell you to go to another emergency clinic who can get you in right away. I'm sorry. We are in a small town.
Right.
We can only serve so many people. We're serving our whole county surrounding us. People are coming from other states. Like, I'm sorry. I really would like to help your animal.
Yeah.
I don't
And
have
we
the
do the
capacity
same
here.
thing,
Absolutely.
I had a young
Get
gal
booked
that
out.
going to the junior NFR, but we're leaving next week. Can you get us in? I can't. We are booked all the way to here. And, had a wonderful lady that really got it, but she's leaving for a very long trip in 2 weeks.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
it's, but we're doing the best we can.
Doing the best.
That's
That's
what
all
I
we
say.
can do,
Doing the best I can. I am so sorry. I really would like to help you.
Yeah,
And
right.
I don't think people understand. I really mean that. If I could help every animal
Right.
that's injured in
I
front
am
of
the
me,
same way.
I would. I promise you.
I say it all the time. I wish I could send every customer with a minimum of 2 to 3 saddles. I wish I had 5 options for them.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, but it.
Yeah.
We can do what we
Can
can
do.
do. Yeah.
That's
and it's not personal because that's something I feel like people feel like it's a personal thing. It's like, no, dude, we're just trying to survive. We're just trying to do this. So
Yep.
yeah. And there's the lack of that's a great point. You guys are kind of it's hard in that area because there's really no one else. So yeah, I imagine
We're
you
the
get
only
kind of
vet
bombarded.
for
I mean,
a long ways around. We had a small animal vet that closed in the next little town over, so they were no longer seeing small animals. And I mean, I'm talking like literally other states, Nebraska, Wyoming come down, and we get truck drivers that come through trying to get a lot of truck drivers
Dogs
have
or
dogs that
something,
ride with
yeah.
them, and they're trying to get things done, and they're trying to offer everything they can, but and we have to have we have to have standards as well. You know, you have people who say they're coming and they don't show up.
Yeah.
So you have to change, you know, and do deposits, and, you know, you have to be regular, or, you know, or we have to have seen you recently, because we can't have our vets getting out of bed at 2 a.m. for an emergency to meet you at the vet clinic and open it up for you. And then you don't show up.
Oh.
You don't let us know that you're not coming. What an awful waste of time, you know? And now they've lost sleep and they're supposed to practice the next day. Like, come on, you know, talk about lack of consideration, you know, and I feel like that just runs rampant. So
It does.
yeah, it's tough business for sure, but
It is.
still wouldn't trade it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's also very, very rewarding.
Very
yes,
rewarding,
yes, it is.
Just keep on
Yes.
powering through.
Yeah.
I guess one kind of last subject you have, like you've done the leather work for quite some time too, but what sort of sparked your photography interest? What led to that?
Well, so I actually have loved photography my whole life.
Yeah.
Since I was teeny tiny. So it's kind of funny. There's a couple cute pictures. I can't find them. I've been looking for them. I used to take my brother's, he got this Kodak camera, this yellow and blue, and it was about like this big, this long. He got it for like Christmas or his birthday, and I used to borrow it, we'll say, all the time. And there's a picture of me, my little, like, you know, teeth, your missing teeth, and my hair is all messy. And I don't know who took the picture of me taking a picture, but I'm like holding my little head all crooked. My hair is like, my black hair is just all crazy a mess, which was all the time. And I'm taking a picture of something, you know, and so every chance I could, I would, you know, borrow that and take pictures. And then at one point, one of them had a Polaroid camera, which was of course much more rewarding because that was quick, you know, and so I would be, you know, seeing what I took a picture of, you know, and then I remember my dad had a video, like a camcorder, you know, the little handheld, and I used to take it, walk around the house, recording the house, stating what's on the walls. And, you know, so I have actually always loved capturing moments since I was teeny tiny. In high school, I actually was in photography my whole high school career.
Wow.
So much so that they didn't have a class. There was like a handful of us that went all the way through all the photography classes that were available, but we still had more time in high school. So the photography teacher would meet us, you know, like once a week, and we would actually make up our own assignments.
Wow.
And then we would make our own grading scale, and then they would approve or deny what we did, and then we would go out, do our assignments, and then come back the next time and, you know, go through our grading and everything. And it was really cool at that time too, because we actually developed all of our own film.
Oh my gosh.
We did all of the pictures in the darkroom. We developed all our own pictures, like everything. So I learned it like elementary side of photography back then, and you know, had my camera and everything, and I did that. I've always taken, I mean, the amount of pictures in my phone is like, it's probably offensive to some people. There's so many. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been into it heavily for a long time. And then, you know, you go through a lot of life stages where you're doing different, you know, activities and everything. And then a couple years ago, I saw that there was a what's called a juried show. So you enter several pieces of work, so several photographs, and then there's literally like a jury judging all of your stuff on whether or not you can get in to the show. And then once you're in the show, then you actually hang prints, and it's a really like, so I didn't know the level of what I was signing up for. It just sounded neat.
Yeah.
And so I entered several pieces. I made it through several rounds, and then I didn't make it into the jury's show, which was okay. I was happy that I even went for it. Then I get the email about, you know, that I made it through several rounds and stuff, a few different pieces. And it turns out there were 900 entries.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like, I went for a giant show, you know, and I mean, this was like a nationwide. And
That's
apparently
so
this
cool,
was
though.
like, you know, however many years it had been going. And this was like a really well-respected show. So I accidentally stumbled into like, you know, the Lamborghini of shows or whatever.
Lamborghini of art,
You know, I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking, you know? But I was happy because what that did was the passion I had to get my pieces entered and the bravery to put myself out there, because there's something about my photography when I put myself out there. It's like I'm bearing my soul. It's like I'm letting someone read my journal, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's a little nerve-wracking, but it's really neat to get the feedback and have people like and appreciate my photography. So that started it. And then I just really started to get back into it again. And I had actually gone to this really neat Western art exhibit And there were some photographers, showcased there and everything. And I was talking to the gals running it and said, I, really have an interest in trying to have some of my work. And she said, oh, you get on this website, blah, 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 whatever. And I said, okay. And she said, we'll take down your information. So perfect. So I just thought, well, you're out, whatever, And so I just kept taking pictures of everything as I always have. And she reached out to me separate from this show and said, hey, we have a, the small town art walk is coming up.
Oh.
And I was wondering if you would want to exhibit your photography and have your whole own, like area to have your artwork up. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I would love that, And so the way it works is the small town businesses host you as an artist.
Oh, okay.
So they open their business outside of regular business hours, and it's an art walk. So it brings them potentially business to theirs while also supporting a new or upcoming or growing artist, local
absolutely.
Artist.
Okay, that's cool.
So she asked me if I wanted to be a part of that, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So I love the small town I'm in. Small town's just so fun. I mean, you guys are out here, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was so excited, to be able to do that, and it actually turned out I only had 2 weeks to get my pieces printed and framed.
Whoa.
And I put together 23 pieces printed and framed. Like, I hustled. I went through because I have photographs that are my favorite that are just burned into my memory to go find them back in whatever place I had it saved. And, is the quality good enough to print, and what size can I print? And there's so many aspects that I don't think people know goes into printing a photograph, that the quality it needs to be,
Absolutely.
And then you want to match a frame that helps, complement it, or, whatever you want to do with it. And so, I went through, and man, I threw together this little show in a very short amount of time, and sent out invites to just, closer friends and family. I was a little I was a little nervous to be like, oh my, I felt like I was hanging my underwear out for everybody to see or something. I was like, oh my gosh, it was nerve wracking, but it was very well received.
Good.
And I
That's
had
awesome.
several pieces purchased, and then I had several people like the pieces that were purchased, so they actually asked for prints. So I was able to follow up with some prints, and so that also really, really just kept that fire going and just stoked that fire, So I was like, I just realized that I was missing this. You tell I'm excited even just talking about it, But I've always told people, so they understand my love of photography. My love of horses is the top of everything. And photography is like barely below it. Like,
Right.
I mean, it's almost equal. My love of photography is so high in my life. And so I realized, wow, I've been missing this so much. So much. And so I had gone out and bought a newer camera, better quality. And I didn't even know. I was just like, I'm going to do something. I don't know what. I'm going for it. And so the first thing I went and shot was actually the Indian relay races. I went on a whim one weekend, bought me and my mom tickets, and said, Mom, take whatever day off, take Friday off or Saturday off or whatever. And she's like, what? Where are we going? I'm like, just take the day off. And she was like, okay. She's like, she knows that's going to be something fun.
Yeah.
So we drove hours up into Wyoming and went, and I took pictures and shot my first Indian relay race, which is, it was the first one I'd ever gone to too. So talk about an exciting experience. So I used my camera for the first time with that. And then I've just been every time we go anywhere, our trips for the Exceptional Rodeo, we always go to really neat places. And so I just take it with me on the road, and, shot lots of cool places in New Mexico and Texas and, everywhere along the way. Colorado's beautiful. Obviously, there's plenty of places to shoot around here. And so it's just been snowballing. I just did a really amazing photography workshop a few weekends ago, and, honed some skills from I really, really respect this gal. She's an amazing photographer. She's all Western equine. She's a lane equine photography, if you haven't checked her out, but her work is just amazing. So I went and learned, under her, with her, next to her, and, shot with her. And then, there's another gentleman who was there hosting us, and his name's John, and he's a photographer as well. And so, we just had this collective group, and there was just 5 or 6 of us, and all different aspects of photography were coming from. Wildlife photography, one of the gals loves shooting birds predominantly, but also wildlife. The other one was like wolves, and, we're just coming together and for the love of, photography. And then, went and rode and found the wild horses,
Gosh, that would be
So I'm
cool.
on my absolute favorite creature ever, this big black and white paint mare is draft horse. I'm
God.
on a horse riding out to see the wild horses. And
Taking pictures. Oh my gosh.
Taking pictures, shooting, on, like trusting her enough, dropping the reins and taking some shots.
That's amazing.
And, getting off and, kick the cactus. They will go through your cowboy boot if they are kicked a cactus, it's like the horses are right there. I got to keep going, pull it out, But yeah, so just went and hiked all over there. It was amazing. We had a bunch of models. We were fortunate to go onto this, ranch and shoot longhorns and cowboys working the longhorns.
That's
and,
so cool.
We had models standing on the edge of like cliffs and boulders, in just the, just the most beautiful landscape. It's so funny. It's like I told Sarah, the gal that was running the workshop, I said, I would be just enjoying the day being here, standing up here, going to the top of this mountain, watching the longhorn, like watching the cowboys work. I could watch that all day. Yeah. And then I get to take memories away. I get to shoot and take pictures. Like, oh my God, and I was so excited. It was absolutely amazing. And I feel like her and I had we grew a great bond over the time that we were together. And I just think she's just an amazing person. It's neat to meet the person behind the pictures and find out that they're as amazing as their artwork. Yeah. And so I felt really honored to meet her because I'd been following her work for a long time. Yeah. And she does those big parachute dresses.
I've seen those. They're like these big dresses that these girls wear on these horses. It's insane.
We had a gal go up on one of the mountains, and we had her in one of the, not the parachute dress, but this other kind of dress, and it's like 10-12 feet of material. Oh my gosh. And so cool. She was, her physique was stunning, and she'd done it before, so she just hit some good poses and stuff. And we had a few different models and everything. We had a old homestead we got to shoot out that was actually our host. It was his family's homestead, so his greats actually homesteaded it. Yeah.
Wow.
And then like the horse barn's still standing too. So the homestead, Bear got inside the homestead. So it was a little interesting on the inside. You could tell he'd been like laying on the bed and like tearing things up and, all that. But yeah, it was just such a cool experience, and just, continued that in nourishing, the creative side. And then I learned a lot of technical side that, I'm so not a technical in any form. I'm like just go for it, and like the Bronx, just go for it, we'll figure it out later. But I was happy to learn the technical side because it's so crucial to shooting and getting the quality work that you want. Yeah. And I've been fortunate to have close friends and coworkers and family ask me to shoot their important dates. I shot a wedding. I did a maternity shoot, and then she had the baby, and I got to do the newborn shoot, and she asked me back again, which guess what means I must have done okay, so it's like, oh, yes, I'll do that, and I did the maternity shoot just as a gift because I love her, and I was so happy and proud of her for taking her motherhood journey, on, and just, I know she's a great mom, and so I was excited, and then she, so hired me for the newborn shoot, and, so that was exciting, and I've got to do some gender reveals, and I've got several weddings that are coming up from friends,
That's awesome.
And I mean, I'm not like, photographers charge crazy money, and I'm like, I just am happy to do it, it's like, so that's where I'm at, so, it's like, I'm just happy to do it, and so yeah, I've just been really excited. It's been such a fun journey, and it's funny. I knew how much I loved it, but it sparked something in me even more than I realized that I was missing. Yeah. Because I can shoot pictures in any mood. Yeah. I'm mostly in a good mood, but I mean, I could be sad and I could go shoot pictures. I could lose an animal and I could go shoot emotional pictures. I can, be my happiest and shoot the most sunny pictures, and so it's like no matter what mood I'm in, I can always pick up a camera. I can't always do that with leatherwork. Yeah. There's a different creativity that comes with leatherwork and that you need, and the physicality of leatherwork people don't understand. There's a different component to it. So I'll always do leatherwork, and I'm still going to do leatherwork, but right now it's kind of just sitting, and I've just been shooting like crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've since gotten a second better camera, gotten some bigger, nicer lenses, and going for it. I just got a new laptop, which is, I can't wait.
I always love it.
Who would have ever thought I'd be excited to have a computer? But I am, because it's going to help everything. It's going to help everything. Yeah, oh gosh, my other laptop's so outdated. I'm like, do what I can, but I need a new one. So, I've got good friends supporting me in my journey. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. He told me, just remember the little people when you make it big. I'm
Absolutely.
Like, thanks for the booster comment. You got it. Thanks. Yeah,
Thanks, man. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying it, though. It's been a great refound, just just back at it. So
No,
I'm happy to be back in it again.
You're a very inspiring person. Like just going
Most
after what
definitely.
you're passionate about. Like I'm super proud of you.
Oh,
You're
thank
awesome.
you.
Yes, you're just
It's
awesome.
mutual. I love watching your journey too with all your ponies. Yeah.
Pones.
Yeah.
Yes, you're awesome. So I guess one kind of last closing questions. What are your goals? What's the future look like? More photography?
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, so
Yeah.
probably, well, I plan to travel more actually, with my camera in tow, of course. I have a series that I've been wanting to do actually. So I gotta like dig into how I want to do that and try to decide like a plan of action. It's involving horses, of course, but yeah, it's a photography journey I'd like to go on, and I'd like to put together a series of horses in different areas
That's
and different,
awesome.
different countries. And so yeah, so it's funny, I was talking with one of the gals from the photography workshop about plans and things that we want to do. And so yeah, that's on the horizon for sure. It's just I got a few things I got to tackle first, and get some things in order first, but that's definitely on the horizon. And I still, I've been it's been such a long road, but trying to get into the mounted shooting. I'm on my fourth or fifth horse for this. It's been one thing after another. Presley, of course, was going to be the initial shooting horse, and then she had all this lameness stuff and bone spurs and early onset of arthritis, and she has never had a job, that girl. So she was out. Then I had Louie, and then of course I had to send him on his way, and he had all that go on, and Catalina. It's just been so I keep trying to find this right horse. I've got my beautiful boy Zorro now.
He's so cool.
I think he has the right temperament. I think his health and his body will hold up to it. So I plan to shoot off of Zorro. And then possibly Clem, my little red roan guy that you kind of have a crush on.
I love him.
Yeah, so I got to get him saddle broke, but he's just been a real easygoing guy, so I think he's capable of it as well. So I'm not letting go of that. That's still somewhere in there, at least just some local stuff just to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Guns and horses, that's the coolest. So
Absolutely.
Some cowboy action. So yeah, I hope to do that too. Just got some stuff in front of me to get through, and but I'll keep shooting pictures the whole time for
Heck
sure.
yeah.
So
Heck
yeah. And then leather work, that'll never go away. I enjoy it too much. So I've got some holsters on the bench to come, and I've got some heart horse memorial stuff I've been working on. That's more horsehair, a little bit of leather incorporated, but I've got some I've started and I got to finish. And so so a lot on the horizon as always. It's always a few things.
No, it's awesome though.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's just you. It's so you. You're just awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
Variety's the spice of life.
That's a good.
And that's what I live by. I've been like that forever. So I like having my hand in a whole bunch of things and not a dull moment. So if you're ever around me, it's never a dull moment.
It's never a dull moment.
You might just be in a tornado, or I don't know. You might be helping me onto a bronc. I mean, who knows?
You never know. It could be both in one day.
We
don't know.
Yeah, no, it's
That's
always
awesome.
shenanigans.
Always
I'm all about the shenanigans. So.
It makes life
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, no, life has to be experienced, so I'm trying to say yes to everything. I've pretty much always said yes to everything anyways, but yeah, I just think like it's just to be experienced. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, do you guys have anything else? Do you have any other questions?
No,
Or do you
it was just pleasure talking to you.
Thank you
and
for
sitting
having
here,
me. I absolutely
she's awesome.
love
Amazing.
your tack
Yeah,
store, and I
thank
love this
you.
location. It's just amazing. It's been neat following your journey as well as it's
Absolutely.
grown, and
Yes, it's
and then
grown.
we've known each other, gosh, for a
it's gotta
long
be, what,
time.
10 years?
Yeah.
I
So.
think,
No,
so.
I just adore you, and I feel honored. I feel honored that you want to hear about my crazy life, So
Absolutely.
thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's just been really enjoyable. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you,
you,
ladies.
guys.
It's
For
been
sure.
great,
Thank
and be sure to check out more episodes. Shop small, all the things. But
Yep.
thank you guys so
Support
much.
Small business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to give us a like, drop a comment, or subscribe to keep up to date on new episodes. See you next time.